Hey, it's Matt. Thanks for joining me today on the 2 Hours of Matt Pinfield podcast. Now, every Monday and Thursday, we're putting out full-length, in-depth conversations with some of your favorite musicians. I was joined earlier this week by Sully Erna from Godsmack. Now, Brian and Nikki from Silver Sun Pickups, Dawes, and Rob from Volbeat have all been recent guests. Check out the podcast archive page at 2hoursmattpinfield.com to hear our over 40 previous conversations. Today, I'm joined by a couple of guys I've known since the mid-'90s. They're getting ready to release their 12th studio album tomorrow, and they've sold over 20 million albums in their career. Now, last year, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm talking, of course, about Mike and Tre from the iconic punk band Green Day. We're talking all about the new album, Revolution Radio, one they say may be their best, and I love all the songs they played for me. Plus, generational fans, family life, and memories of their earliest tours in the good old bookmobile. So kick back, relax, speed us up to 1.5x, and enjoy my conversation with Mike Dirnt and Tre Cool from Green Day.
Mike Dirnt and Tre Cool here.
Check out our conversation with Matt Pinfield on the 2 Hours or 7,200 seconds with Matt Pinfield podcast.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Pay Matt's bills.
Hey, it's Matt Pinfield, and I'm hanging out right now with Mike Dirnt, Tre Cool of Green Day in their studio where they're rehearsing. And guys, we recorded the new album, right? Revolution Radio. Let's talk about, I just have to say to you both how the new single blew me away. I loved it so much from the minute I heard it. Just the power of the song, the vocals, the way it was recorded, all the things you did. Tre, like the breakdown. I was that drum breakdown in the middle. I'm like, man, see, this is why this is one of the greatest bands in the world. Really, for me, I love the band and have for such a long time, since seeing you guys at City Gardens back in the day. You remember when you were in the early Lookout tours?
Oh, we had some fun.
You know what I mean? And we've been friends since. So, guys, tell me about, making the new record.
No, I don't want to interrupt you. You're saying all this great stuff about Green Day. Keep going, Matt.
Really, to me, you're one of the greatest bands in the world. I love the band so much. One of the greatest live bands of all time. And all those records that I love so much. So many songs that have connected with me and so many other people that mean the world to me. And I always think about the way you guys originally came up when you were doing those early tours. Like when you were going out on your own and doing stencils for your T-shirts.
Yeah. We got our bookmobiles parked right out front right now.
Which is amazing.
Mothball fleet out there.
Tell me about, what do you remember about the first tour that you guys did? Well,
it's really just about getting in a van and making sure you had enough ink for your days off so you could go to Kmart and buy T-shirts and put them on your guitar case and screen them to sell them and get enough gas to get to the next town. It's really just about it's about the adventure. Like, how many floors can I sleep on? Can I find a place to sleep on the floor? And I remember everywhere you go, it's like you want to put your foot down there and say you've been there, or you want to piss on it and say you've been there.
Right, exactly.
Marking your territory. But every place you went was a new adventure.
In those days, we didn't have, computers or anything to tell us how far towns were away from each other. Or navigation, for that matter.
Yeah,
so we got lost a lot, and like I would book the towns by like how many inches apart on the map. The towns were saying, okay, if it's more than 2 inches, then that's pretty far. So,
there's these things called Rand McNally maps and Thomas Guide maps, and I guarantee millennials will never see them.
No, not at all.
And not to mention, it usually costs about between $250 and $350 of a phone bill to randomly calling any club you could find in a town. Say I got to find a club in Dallas. You randomly call. You go, hey, who puts on shows like this? And then okay, well maybe this place, and you're literally just calling around trying to find whatever club would take you on.
And a good place to start is other bands that had been on the road and like say, hey, where did you guys play on your tour? And they're like, oh, we played Sioux Falls. Oh, really? Do you got a number? Yeah. We played, in Pensacola. Ooh, do you got a number? Yeah. Talk to Gus or whatever.
The band sharing that information is really what made that whole thing happen.
And it's just, it's a scene and it's bands helping each other out and.
and in Gilman Street, we're starting here. I mean, I'm sure as bands came through, you exchanged information. It was very much the punk DIY thing, and when you guys were doing Lookout, right? And
yeah, I mean, there's one gal in the East Bay here who was integral with all. She would share and help organize all. Her name was Kamala Parks, and she's amazing. She's also a great drummer, but she played for Kamala and the Carnivores, and she's just one of those people. Every scene has that person who's kind of got their head straightened on a little tighter, maybe, or just is a little more organized than everybody else around them, and says, "Wow, if I employ these skills, I can actually get everybody to come together and make this happen."
What a beautiful thing. I mean, when you think about it, in those days, like you said, because you did not have the kind of access people have today. On the other hand, you made a lot of friends, and you slept on floors and couches and wherever you had to go. But it had to be a beautiful time too, and as young guys at that period of time. I mean, that's how I found out about the band. It was just the word was getting out. You know what I mean, in the punk rock scene. So when you guys came to Trenton City Gardens back in the day, I was like, I'm going down. So we drove all the way down from New Brunswick to see you guys. And
that was a big show for us the first time we played there. I remember thinking, man, this place is big.
Yeah, because a big warehouse, right?
Yeah. But it was also where we had. I remember playing that show, going, "God, there's a ton of people here. I mean, we've been touring for a while to get to that venue, but then meeting so many people were like, where can I get your record?" And they'd all been sharing tapes and dubbing tapes and copying for each other. And I'm like, man, I don't know how much longer we could pull this off.
Yeah, it's like, well, we have an empty box of records in the back of our van.
Do you have a independent record store near you? You do. Do they carry more than 4 Lookout records?
Yeah.
Yeah. And was it growing? Did you see it growing as you went? Because I saw your audience growing. That was the thing that has always been. The groundswell built around the band was really exciting for me. And it was like, that was an incredible thing for you. But when it started here, when you first started recording, I thought it was really cool that the guy from Lookout Records, you made him a part of, your induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he was there, and talk about all of that. Tell me about how he first worked with you guys and discovered you. What was the earliest shows that you did, Tre?
Well, I was in a band with Lawrence Livermore when I was 12 years old.
You were in a band with Lawrence?
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. I had no idea.
Called The Lookouts. You can, that's a hard record to find, but...
Tre actually invited us to play.
Yeah.
Up north. Go ahead.
We had... He started Lookout Records, pretty small, and there's a couple of bands that he put out, like Isocracy and Crimp Shrine and Operation Ivy and Sticky and some of these bands, smaller bands that he liked, and Isocracy had this crazy ass cool drummer friend of mine named Al Sabrante, who met these guys and started Sweet Children. And I remember him saying, "Hey, Tre, man, I met these kids. They're like the Beatles, dude. They're like, they got the thing, man. They sing like freaking canaries, and they just rip on their instruments, and they're like super kooky and awesome. It's the future, dude." And I was like, "Oh, cool. I want to meet these guys." And so
he booked Tre books a show for us up in the hills, up in Willits, and which is about 3.5 hours up north. We literally had to break a chain and drive up this half-a-mile road into the complete darkness with a generator. And there was supposed to be a party there. The gal cancels the party, so we drive up the road and break into her house anyway. And we play in this empty cabin without a roof with a generator. There was I'd say about 15 people there. Half of them tried to leave in the middle of while we were playing. It's freezing. There's no roof on this place. It's literally freezing in there. They try to leave while we're playing. We're like, no, you ain't going anywhere. You're going to finish and watch our set. But after we were done, Lawrence was like, "Hey, let's on the spot. Let's do a 45, little record. A little 4-song 7-inch." And then lo and behold, I mean, we went from there. She just kept playing local shows. Day after I graduated high school, went on a little tour, came back. Then we started jamming with Tre, and then it's been nonstop every day ever since.
Yeah, and then Kerplunk and 490 Coffee Maker, all those great records early on. I mean, the fact that you guys were doing what you were doing at that period of time, but you were doing a real DIY thing. When you think of young bands, when you meet young bands now,
And you know, so many people look up to the band and love the band. I love the songwriting, love the performance. But tell me about, I mean, those very early days on the road. What were some of the best things, the things that kept you guys going through that early period in the van? Was it just, I mean, was it one of those things where meeting other people and just getting the word out? What was it like?
I think it was an adventure.
It's kind of like you see a lot of the country, and you see, you know, along the way the places you got some real, you know, crap holes, and then some real amazing spots, you know, and you know, just the shows were always completely different. We didn't know, you know, what we were getting ourselves into. Every time was like some complete adventure until after the show. Like, where the hell are we going to sleep tonight? You know, like we'd be like selling T-shirts after a gig and be like, you know, hey, anybody have a place we could stay? And some people would be like, well, yeah, you could stay at my house. And maybe somebody else would say, well, you can stay at my house too. So then it would be like, all right, well, who's got carpet? Because we're going to be sleeping on the floor. So, okay, hey, this guy's got carpet. Oh, but he lives like a half hour the opposite direction of the next town. Oh, and then maybe the kid with the hardwood floor would throw in, well, my mom will make you breakfast tomorrow. So, all right, we're going to the hardwood floors, but we're getting pancakes.
It didn't
dude.
always turn out very good, but, you know, as long as we weren't, you know, because there's been nights where we couldn't find a place, or they're like, you know, I get this abandoned place we could kind of stay in, and it was rough.
We slept behind a mattress store on old mattresses one time when we couldn't find a place, and like kind of configured Dipsy dumpster garbage cans around for like a bit of shelter.
Yeah.
So
you know,
little
the other thing, we had a milk crate filled with cassette tapes from Lookout Records and compilation tapes. We'd all just bring whatever tapes we had, and you know, you just put those in, listen to music, crank it up, and gun it to the next town.
What were you guys listening to when you were on the road in the beginning? What kind of things were you?
A lot of our friends' bands and compilation tapes, you know.
NWA.
Yeah, I mean, there's listening to everything from
the Beatles,
you know, Lookout Record stuff to
we burned through Please Please Me a bunch. That was a good sing along.
You know, and everything from that to listen, I remember listening to No Means No Wrong a lot on the road, just because it's driving a lot of energy.
Neurosis,
Dead Kennedys, you know, I mean,
The Word Is Law.
Anything we could get our hands on, any cassette we could get our hands on, and if we didn't like it, it went out the window.
That's great.
We still do the van test.
I think it's fantastic when you think about it. So talk to me about when you guys did get signed to Reprise and what that experience was like, and knowing, you know, you were going to work with Rob Cavallo. Tell me, at that period of time, obviously you guys have built an incredible, as I said earlier, groundswell. What was, when you guys, were you courted by a lot of labels in that period of time?
Yeah, we had fun with it. You know, we knew there's a few different labels trying to sign us, and we kind of figured out about halfway through it that we were going to go with Reprise, but we're like, you know, screw it. If Gavin wants to spend some more money. It was the first time that we'd ever been to a fancy restaurant, was when Benji Gordon from Geffen Records took us to a Thai restaurant
of a food truck
in LA.
right now.
Yeah, and it's like, whoa, there's like, they bring the food to your table? This is amazing. But, you know, it wasn't a diner. It was like a fancy-ass restaurant. And so, like, yeah, we could do some more of that. Like, have them, you know, we had him take us to Disneyland.
It's a bit of a scam.
Yeah, and
you know,
we say, hey, you know, Geffen Records, we really would like to go to Disneyland. Do you think you can make that happen? So their A&R guy took us to Disneyland. And I'll always remember on the way back, we're in the car, and we passed by Warner Boulevard in Orange County, and Mike goes, hey, where's Geffen Boulevard? I thought that was pretty good. So, I think he might have known at that point that we weren't going to go that direction. But,
Yeah, I mean,
so we had fun with it.
I mean, the thing was, it was one of those things. We had just, you know, gotten so big. The clubs were getting shut down anyway. It's either quit doing this and go flip burgers or something, or, you know, figure out the rest of your life, or just keep doing what we're doing. You know, I look at the word band as like you band together and make a pact to actually go do something. Anybody can form a group of people, you know, but a band actually stands for something.
and you guys do. I mean, you guys are a brotherhood and have been. I mean, it's been the three of you doing your thing for so long, and it's great. When it came time to work on the songs for Dookie and to write and record. What was that period like? How long did it take you to come up with the songs for that record? And did you have some of them on the road before you got in the studio?
We've been working on.
Welcome to Paradise obviously was there twice.
Yeah, Welcome to Paradise was chosen because it had changed so much on the road, and we really wanted, when we got into a big studio, we wanted to have something that we really knew to record first.
As a point of reference, really.
Yeah, as a point of reference for like how it sounded and how it can sound. Not to mention that from touring that song so much, it had changed pretty dramatically. And then, there are other songs that we had worked on for well over a year, which was like Longview. That was one that took over a year to compose. But, I mean, we went in with
we were
probably
practicing. We
most
practiced
of the
in
songs.
Billy's mom's living room, and then we went up to my parents and up in the woods and had a little...
Practice in their living room?
Yeah, in their living room, had kind of like a little woods retreat up there. And then it was cool because we got to go in a, big recording studio for the first time and, got some cool new drums.
You must have been psyched about that, right?
Get a new bass amp. Like, wow, what's that all about? And it was we recorded it at Fantasy Records, which is in Berkeley, which was built on the back of
Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Yeah, exactly. We all know that scam. But I'd like to, it's funny. I used to be a busboy, and John Fogerty came in and I was busting tables for him years ago, and then years later, I still got to thank the guy, for his hard work. I got to record a record in my hometown at a killer studio, regardless to who put their name on the marquee. But at the end of the day, I would have never known that studio was there.
No,
pretty amazing.
Well, it must have been a great time for you guys too.
We learned a lot too. I think we soaked it all up. Like, oh, what does that do? What's this? What are you doing there? What's this? What are these knobs doing? Like, it was like mind blowing. Every day we just learn and learn and learn how do you place microphones? What
do these compressors do?
Yeah.
What do these limiters do? And we've been that way ever since. We really enjoy the recording, the mixing process, every bit of it. And it's actually led us full circle to where with Revolution Radio, we've been able to do things, with a great engineer, Chris Dugan, and just the three of us, we were able to record a record that I think sounds every bit as good as anything we've ever done.
I mean, that single explodes. It's so good, man.
It's so funny how easy it is to. Can I cuss on this?
Yes.
It's so easy to fuck up a simple recording, and it's so hard to unfuck it once you do.
Yeah,
Oh, hang on.
My
beeper.
That's God calling. You can't use the word.
I guess,
Bleep it.
The suit's upstairs. It says you can't say fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
No, it's going to be... That's
this is a nighttime radio.
Yeah, it is, and we bleep.
This is 72. This is 7,200 seconds with Matt Pinfield.
Yeah, that's it. That's great.
How many hours does that work out to be?
That would be 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How many minutes?
Is that 2 hours or is that?
Is that 120 minutes?
Oh, that would be exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Good times.
Sounds familiar. I don't know why.
Yeah. So, Mike, so it's amazing how endearing. As we're talking about Dookie, that record has been for so many people. I remember when I got sent, from your manager Pat and the label when I got my 10 times platinum record, and you see what it's meant to people, and it still does. But your catalog of songs are just, and all the great stuff you guys have done over the years, it's just amazing. When you look back on that record now, is that like one of your fondest memories? I mean, there's got to be many, but what do you think about when you made that and how things started to explode with the videos like Longview and Basket Case and everything how it was happening so quickly? I was at a bunch of those shows. Tre and I, you were in the studio at my little radio station down there in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and then I was with you guys at Stone Pony, the Big Top, remember, outside? Yeah. And what was that experience? Did it feel like at that point as it was happening?
No, as it was happening, it was weird. It was exciting. Things were moving at the speed of light. I mean, it's one thing this band, and I almost wish we had stopped and looked back a lot more over the years, because really up until after the last trio of records, Uno Dos Tre, that we put out, we hadn't really stopped. We would always stop with our next move in sight, looking forward. We'd stop, but we move forward. And, we would come home and we'd practice every day in between, probably 4 to 6 days a week, no less, for 20 years. That said, though, I love doing it because it allowed us to be so prolific and stay on whatever it is we were going after. But now I look back at it and I'm just like, man, how fucking lucky were we? And how great were we to have all those experiences and be in the moment for so long?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like doing and then Insomniac right after, like all the things that, all those records, Nimrod, Warning, all that stuff. A lot
of that stuff was back to back, like Mike was saying. We never, as the public might have thought that we were chilling, hanging out. No, we were working on the next thing.
Always grinding
constantly.
in some way, shape, or form. And we love doing it, and there was times where it was a little arduous, but for the most part, this has been, if you wanted to know what we were up to, right after one record, just look at the next record.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all Billy's autobiography right there, and he's brutally honest in his lyrics and always has been, whether it's brutally honestly having a great time and being a complete goof, or whether it's brutally honest about, personal or social politics.
Yeah, which I love. An American Idiot. Here's the amazing thing that I always feel about Green Day and about you guys, that you guys have had 2 landmark records that are just, not many bands have done that, can do what you guys did, where these 2 records define 2 periods, define the band, but they are literally, 2 of the most important rock records of all time, if you think about it. And then the fact that it turned, obviously, into a musical, but just the songs, the story, everything that you guys did. Was there ever a period during American Idiot, after you recorded it and saw the reception for the record, where you guys said, wow, man, I can't believe, it's like it's happening again? What was that like for you?
Yeah. From the time when we finished recording American Idiot till we put it out, like those sort of, the kind of months that we knew, okay, we have something huge here on our hands. We had this kind of feeling of like this potential kind of explosion about to happen. And it's kind of like the same feeling we have right now, because we're in that same gap right now before Revolution Radio's out. And we all kind of have that feeling. It's like we got goosebumps. Like I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it. It's the same feeling.
Yeah, it's that nervousness
right now.
That like an ambivalence, not ambivalence, but like a nervous anxiety that makes you feel like if I'm nervous about it and I feel like we all feel like we're firing on all cylinders, or we're on the same page, and it's a good nervous excitement, but it's also like we're on to something, and that's something I think if we take, we would always. I attribute it to like the same sort of, go big or die trying sort of attitude that you get with a lot of rap music. It's just like, I guess if you come from nothing, you're not afraid to lose it all, because you were happy broke too. So go for it, and swing for the fences.
Mm-hmm. It's like I always tell people, you got to be for the love of the music to begin with. It's got to be your love and your life. That's what really it's all about, right?
Yeah, I don't know about hits. People go, how do you choose the singles? And that's up to the labels and radio stations and everything else. If you're going to talk about hits, swing for the fence.
Yeah, exactly.
Boulevard of Broken Dreams was an absolute blowtorch. A beautiful song, an incredible track. And when that came out, did you guys feel like when you were recording that song, you just said, man, this is something, you knew that song was special, right? It just...
We knew at the record, when we finished the record, we actually sat down together and said, I don't care what the rest of the world thinks about this. This feeling that we had about the record, we wanted to just bottle it and keep it for ourselves and be proud of what we had done, because we knew we were putting ourselves out there and didn't know what was going to come of it.
It was beautiful. That record is amazing. How did you guys like when you first saw the musical for the first time? Like I went and saw Billy Joe in it with Jesse Malin, and I went and saw him there and hung out with him, and Adrian. But tell me about what it was like the first time that you actually saw your songs put to a musical.
Well, the first time that we actually saw anything work towards the musical was when they were just singing through it, and even just hearing their voices, like the original cast, like everyone had like chairs, and there's really nothing to show us except the score, really, over the and having the voices sing back, especially having like female voices singing like some of the songs. It was really like emotional, and like I still remember that. Like it was like bone chilling. It was beautiful.
One thing about being in Green Day is that we'll never get to see Green Day live, and so that's the joy that everybody else in the world gets to have. And we kind of, again, we got to bottle the feeling of having other people perform our music back to us. Whether it was from the beginning of the series of workshops that Michael Mayer and Tom Kitt did, all the way through to the Berkeley Rep first run-throughs. It was, and that's been something that that's now stitched into the fabric of Green Day's DNA, and I'm so proud of it.
Yeah, you should be. I mean, I loved it. I loved when I saw the Wall, like do all the songs being laid out that way and sung with a chorus sometimes, and when Billy Joe came down the ladder, and St. Jimmy. It was such a great thing because the music we have all loved and lived with, and the story of that record too. It just, to me, it's so important.
When we saw the version of, when we saw Billy perform in the version of the Broadway music of Broadway American Idiot, it was so funny because he came out when he performs as St. Jimmy. His voice was astronomically louder than every single person on stage, and it was like, it's one of those things when he started singing and he just belted it out. You're in your seat and you kind of your chest goes back a little bit.
Yeah,
you're like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely had the power. That was great. Exactly. When I saw him that night on Broadway and he came down and it was just like, it was in your face. I mean, that's great. And that was the beauty of that as well. So let's talk about, Uno, Dos, Tre. You did those 3 records in a pretty quick succession of time, right? How long did those records take to make?
Mike?
Oh, I mean, the actual making or the writing of the records?
I mean, either way. I mean, both.
I'd say, that was 2.5 years, something like that.
Sounds right.
That was actually one of those things we got into a jam room. We brought Jason White in kind of to bring him in just for feel, like Ronnie Wood's jumps, would probably be jammed with the Stones for feel all the time. We brought him in, actually documented the majority of it. And then we went to New York at one point. We went to Austin, Texas at one point. We went down Southern California at one point just to get different vibes going and keep practicing and writing. We played some of the songs on those records, like Let Yourself Go and Nuclear Family, probably practiced them 500 or 600 times, and literally. But it was, that was just one of those things. We just kept writing and writing and writing, not knowing exactly where we're headed. And you want to be prepared when you go into to make a record. You want to have all your songs done. That's the best case scenario. But then you can find yourself on the other side of it too, where you're like, we have 70 songs. What do we do here? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where it just ended up being. Billy came up with the idea. Like, I think somebody even said it, like Uno, Dos, Tre, and it was kind of funny. And really, at the end of the day, the songs were coming from different personalities. And I love all those
Uno Dos Mike sounded funny.
Yeah, Uno Dos Mike was not a good name.
Tre works, though.
Yeah.
But, we love all those records. Could it have been more concise? I don't know, probably, but that's what got us to where we're at right now. And when I look at Revolution Radio right now, I don't think we've made any missteps, even in our mistakes, because if it got us to where we're at right now, then we did something right.
You did. And Bang Bang is such an incredible record. And I've heard you guys say that one of the things that made it a good experience to record this album was not having the record company or anybody, not having the record company or anybody really over your shoulder. You guys decided to do this on your own so that there wasn't that pressure or anybody else's, too many cooks in the kitchen, or, it was a kind of thing where you really just wanted to work this out on your own?
We just we know how to make a record by now. We've made a few records, and
You certainly have.
just it. And plus, Otis, the studio we recorded at, is very small, and we know what we want to sound like. We know, what we're going after. What those voices in Billy's head. To transfer those onto tape is kind of easier if you take a more direct route.
There was no start date per se. It's like, let's just get in and start jamming. And when you have a producer and you have a label and everybody's ready for you to make the record, there's a lot of pressure there. It says, okay, well, we're in the studio now. You're on the clock. You're paying for the studio. It's we got to get those drum sounds quick. Blah blah. And Tre spent a better part of a month getting the sounds he wanted because he knew he was going to record the entire record with it. Mm-hmm. So let's do it. I mean, he's in there tuning his drums, getting new heads all the time, working his kit, going through a billion different cymbals, and I love it.
It's got one of the best drum sounds you guys have ever come up. Like I said, I flipped when I heard that breakdown, that drum break in the middle of Bang Bang. I loved it. Just sounds so good, man.
It's a rock moment.
It's the first thing I said on the radio after I played it the first time. I'm like, this song is so great. It's so powerful.
You can hear the wood of the drums. It's killer.
Yeah.
It's like that's what a drum's supposed to sound like. At least in that instance. And I think I don't know. A lot of bands will go for trying to get the biggest, loudest, song on the radio, and sometimes it backfires. And you just end up with something. It's like squeezing a hose till it goes as far as it can, and all of a sudden it just starts to trickle.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean,
let's talk about squeezing that hose, Mike.
It's true.
Well, you know me.
It's amazing. So, I mean, Bang Bang is definitely
trickle.
political, and we're looking at all the things.
Not a drop. Sorry, Matt.
No, it's okay, Tre.
We're talking about dicks.
Oh,
Hey, Matt's still here.
I talk about my dick, too. Don't worry about it. We always do.
I talk to my dick.
Yeah.
Hello, principal.
Yeah, my girlfriend calls it the tickler. I mean, so it's whatever. But anyway, I will just say that.
Wrong.
There you go. But anyway, I'll just say that it sounds so good. You guys producing it yourself and working with Chris on the record, like you said, you know how to make a record now. But it also, because of the current political state, I know that Billy Joe, in writing the lyrics, I mean, it's an observation for him. He's always never been afraid to be very honest about what's going on in the world around him. So in the rest of Revolution Radio, can we expect some more commentary? Talk to me about the subject matter on the other songs.
I mean, I think it's been over the last few years, Billy's just been, this is him writing down what the landscape, politically, socially, emotionally, personally, all those things. It's him writing down what he sees. And it's in a weird way, a lot of it has become much more relevant now than it was a year or two ago when he wrote the songs. It's funny, we weren't in this big political mess that we're in right now. As far as the election year, none of that was even, a thought coming into the record. But that said, I mean, there's some heavy hitting emotional moments on this record, and there's also moments of complete elation. There's times I just want to punch a wall. I'm so happy,
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it just judging by the single, which sounds absolutely so great,
Yeah, Still Breathing too, and wait till you hear this. It's it gets you. It's emotional. It's super super honest, and I think it's inspiring, and it's deep. And it sounds kick ass, and it rocks.
It made me cry.
Yeah,
It's a song called "Still Breathing," right?
Yeah.
Is that about Billy Joe and the things he's gone through over the last couple of years in his life?
I think it's one of those things. It could be Billy's writing away right now. That's really that you can people can hear it and take it for them. For Billy, take it for themselves. They can really, it's easily transcribable to your own life.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I think everybody's been through certain things, certain adversities, and and struggles. I can completely relate to that. And speaking to that, guys, on a personal level, Mike, I mean, it was amazing. I was just so happy that your wife is doing better. I know your wife was battling with cancer, and I thought, I mean, that really upset me when I was extremely worried about it, to be honest, as a friend of yours and knowing you for so many years. Well, and I remember when you shaved your head, and it was like because you were going through that thing.
Definitely test your mettle. It's one of those things. I asked the band was gracious enough to give me the time. I said, guys, I need about 8 months here. I got to take my family and move down south and get my wife the treatment she needed. It's terrified me to think that the better parent might not be on this planet very long. But that said, my wife's she's a better fighter than I am, and she's, nobody wants to see us on tour and out there playing and rocking more than my wife does. And so, with that said, we got each other's support, and one thing that's something like that, any adversity that the whole world, everybody goes through their own adversity, and adversity gives you this gift of perspective, and appreciation of what you have, and it makes you want to work harder, fight harder, fuck harder, everything.
Yeah, all those things. But I just, it made me so happy that
Thank you.
When I knew she was doing better, I was just the best. How's family life? I mean, being dads these days, guys. Talk to me about that.
Humbling.
I'll start with you, Mike and Trey. I want to talk to you about it too.
I've got a daughter in college that's way smarter than me. I've got a 6-year-old daughter at home that is way smarter than me. I've got a son who's sharp as a tack. I think what's interesting is you really do realize that everything that you do need to know in life in the sort of intrinsic sense or even the visceral sense, you should know by the time you're 6 or 8 years old. And I look around and I see people that just act like complete assholes. And I go, at what point up to 6 years old did you learn to be that person? So, with that, and I think if you break it down to, the basics, that's what it comes down to, I think.
How about you, Trey? Talk to me about family life for you.
Yeah, my daughter's 21 and my son's 15, and it's a trip, just rock and roll parenting. It's you got to kind of pick and choose what you're going to let slide. And, and it's a lot more than probably other people let slide. But.
Yeah, I totally get that. We're going to say, Mike.
Yeah, but you got to make sure when they're really young that they don't pick and choose their boogers.
Yeah.
No, don't pick and chew a booger.
Exactly.
Now, I haven't met either of your children, but, of course I met, Billy's, and remember, and it was great because he sent me that Boo record. Remember the Boo that he did?
Yeah.
Which was very cool, and had Joey on 120 when we did that one relaunch, which was very cool.
I mean, those kids are rocking musicians. Billy's son, Joey, who performs for the Swimmers, is an amazing drummer. They're a great band. I looked to them for inspiration, just like we looked at the cast of American Idiot for inspiration. Like, that's how to work hard. That's how to get it done.
Yeah.
His son, Jacob, is writing great songs and playing with a great band. And I don't know, and the funny thing is Billy's done a great job of letting them just do it themselves.
Yeah, which is very cool. I think that's great. So what about the first time you ever heard Billy Look for Love, the record he did with his little boy? I mean, that story is unbelievable. Yeah. I love it. That he was taking lessons and his mom was taking the other siblings there, of course, and getting lessons, and they wanted him to make a record. So, to me, I love that. I mean, it's so cute, and it's just cool. Like, he does Look for Love, and then Meet Billy Joe on the other side. It's just like, I love it, though. I mean, it's so cool.
Talk about... barking up the right tree early.
Right.
Yeah. Like when he's talking about, I want to keep recording and, do that. And it was just this beautiful thing because, obviously it was prophecy. He ended up, doing it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, not too many people could say I made my first record when I was 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you guys...
And I got a new one coming out on October 7th.
Yeah, exactly. Revolution Radio. Hey, Trey, when did you start playing drums? How old were you?
11.
11 years old? Mm-hmm. Who were you listening to? What kind of things were inspiring you at that point?
Oh, man. I think at that point, I'd started off playing in a punk rock band, The Lookouts, and most of our songs were about 30 seconds, 45 seconds. A minute would be like a ballad, So I think at that point, 7 seconds was a big influence on me.
I like those guys too. I mean, I was thinking when you said that, I was thinking of them.
Yeah, like X. But then also, like, I lived on a mountain and we had rock radio. So, whatever was on rock radio, some stuff like, I'm not too into this. And some stuff like, yeah, this is awesome. And it's, kind of like picking and choosing little pieces of what I did like,
Keith Moon, were you a fan of? I mean,
I became a fan of The Who probably when I was like 15 or 16. I started discovering more, going a little deeper, and that was when I got my first record player, actually. And so I started like getting old vinyl collections that people didn't want anymore, and kind of listening through stuff. But yeah, Keith Moon's huge inspiration. Ringo,
yeah,
John Bonham,
all the greats. There you go, which is amazing, And I mean, I always loved the cover you guys did of "Tired of Waiting," which when I moved to town here I did a thing on KGO, which is a news station, and they asked me. I was doing my kind of my love letter to San Francisco and the Bay. And I remember pulling out "Tired of Waiting," which I had played, of course, in New York, too. I mean, your originals, of course, I love more, but I always thought you guys did a killer version. So we actually did a mashup with that and the Kinks version. It just sounded so cool.
That's so cool.
It was great. So
that's one of those bands. That's one of those bands I always feel like, you just go back to those records, and they're such solid records.
They really are.
And just great songwriting.
It really is, And Shel Talmey's blind now, the producer who did that in My Generation and all those Kinks
As long as he's not deaf.
Yeah. No, he's not. He says that. He goes, people, I'm blind. I'm not deaf. Come on. I can do some more records.
Yeah.
He's a sweetheart, actually. A great guy. But, hey, Mike, remember you and I used to talk about collecting records, and you were, for a long time, collecting 45s.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me, are you still doing that, or have you?
Oh, I had a break in it for a while, and then I started transferring all the 45s to digital.
Yeah.
And now I just recently have transferred all of that to a more user-friendly. I did my first DJing at a friend's bar a couple years ago, and I was like, I got to get everything into a less compressed file format and all this other stuff. And so I just really trying to categorize. It's still arduous, getting each record, 45 into a digital format like a WAV file or something that's not, and it's not proprietary.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's a lot of work too, right, guys?
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what.
But, it's one of those things. I love my personally curated record collection. I'm not just going to hand it over to you. I'm not going to, I don't care if people share all you want. This shit's mine.
Yeah, no, I know, I get it.
Because I don't want your records in my collection because I probably won't like 90% of them.
Which is so cool.
Yeah.
Now, was a lot of that stuff you collected while you were on the road? Was it in town here?
Again, it's really fun to go out to find little record stores, mom and pop stores, or you'll be in Japan and you'll find like some crazy rare version of a Joan Jett 45 or some obscure, even an obscure Green Day 45 or...
The cool thing about 45s, too, is you'll discover these like rad B-sides that it might be something that that the song, you pick it up, and you're like, I never heard this song. And you listen, and sometimes it's better than the single that you actually went out and bought.
So. That's the best about 45s. That's what I love. I mean, Victim of Circumstance was the B-side to I Love Rock and Roll on one of the singles that Joan Jett put out. And as we were doing, I felt that's my favorite Joan Jett song. So when we were playing shows in Europe on the last go-around, I think it was 21st Century Breakdown Tour, we had Joan Jett was out playing with us, and I'm like, could you play that song? Play that song. And she ended up playing that song and dedicating it to me every night, which was like one of the highlights of my life.
That is really cool. That's great. I love that. So let's also talk about the fact that when you did the Rock and Roll of Fame, first of all, I was there in Cleveland when Billy Joe and you guys inducted Guns N' Roses, which I thought it was so graceful the way that Billy, just said and gave Steve Adler credit too. I loved the way that he did that night, and I thought it was just so cool. And you guys opened the show that night, which was also brilliant. For you guys, when you got inducted, because I vote for it. Obviously, I'm part of, I'm involved with the board of that, and I was like, when I saw you guys, I'm like, of course, I'm going to vote for Green Day. I love it. First go round, was that a great feeling for you guys?
Oh, of course, yeah. What a trip! Like when they said we were nominated, I figured, oh, okay, that's that's a good honor. I'm not going to get my hopes up or anything. And then wow, we made it in, and what a ride that was.
I kind of always figured at some point, at least after American Idiot, I thought, okay, at some point, post-death, we will make it in there. But what's really exciting is to be about to release a record, for me, like Revolution Radio, and to feel like we're still really, really vital. And when I say that, I mean, like, I feel like we're about to put out one of the best records we've ever made. And to me, it's weird because when we got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I feel like there's a part of you that's always like, do I belong here? I don't know. These are all my idols in the room. Oh, my God, this is so weird. And now I'm looking at it going, it just makes me feel like I'm earning my stripes, and we're nowhere near done.
No, you guys are not. I mean, Bang Bang is an indication of this new record, and it's brilliant. I mean, it knocked me out. And I'm meaning that. I'm not blowing smoke. I love it, man. I think it's amazing. It's a great song, and I'm excited. I'm so pumped to hear the rest of the album. For me, the fact that you produced it yourselves, you did it, and it's just, you're right. Vital is a perfect word for Green Day, because it is, you guys have stayed vital, and there's so many different eras of what you guys have done, and it just it's powerful. It really, really is. So it's got to be exciting.
What's exciting is that all that catalog, it transfers over to our live show, and Green Day's always been about being a live band, and the more records we make, the more headaches it is really coming up with set lists.
It's got to be, because you have so much of a catalog now, right?
Yeah, but it's that's where you can see the whole career spanned out in one night, and we share that on the road, and I'm super fired up right now to hit the road. We're
every show.
You just walk through, you see we're packing up our stuff. The drums were coming down as you walk by.
Yeah.
We're putting them on a truck. We're headed out on the road right now, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
I loved Bullet in the Bible too. I just loved that. I thought it really captured you guys as well.
We waited 10 years to put that out.
Yeah,
John Roker.
Do you know how hard it is to
hold
John?
I'm thinking John Roker. I'm thinking Bullet in the Bible was Milton Keynes.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I was thinking Heart Like a Hand
Heart
Grenade.
Like a Hand Grenade too.
That too was great as well. But Bullet in the Bible, when I first saw it, I was just like, see how my guys, how they're just like, they can kill it. And that's the thing. I mean, you have translated from the days in the club, and when Uno Dos Tre came out and I saw you in Irving Plaza, it still had that amazing vitalness. But I could watch you in a stadium, an arena, wherever you are. There's a connection that you make with the audience that a lot of bands, I'm sure your favorite bands of all time, those are the ones who do it. But you guys have that thing, man. There's that incredible chemistry and that connection that when you're playing, even the person all the way in the back just gets that feeling. And that's the
Got to give a lot of credit to the fans, really, because they connect with us. It's like we're doing a lot up on stage too, but like our fans are incredible. They really
we're all there for the same reason.
Yeah, they show up every night, and it's like a community, and it's
it's
the
to
place
celebrate
to be
and to purge and to just scream our heads off, and it's this connection that we've grown up with our fans. I mean, we've got people at the front of every show that I'll recognize for years, and then new kids every time. There's new kids. There's people I recognize. There's gals I recognize that'll show up, or guys I'll recognize that are holding their kids there now. And I'm like, wow, your kid's 20 years old, and you're holding them. No.
Well, what about the couple? There was a couple that had sex at a Green Day show and got pregnant, and then brought their child to a Green Day show, like 8 years later. It's like, oh yeah, he was actually conceived at your concert.
In the car at your show, right?
And knowing Billy, he probably brought him up on stage.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I mean, I think it's great. It really is.
Now, if that kid could someday get laid at a Green Day show, then it's full circle.
Then it's completely full circle.
It's probably happening.
Yeah, it probably is already happening, right, at this point.
A little bit of bang bang, if you know what I'm saying.
Hey, the Gilman Street thing was great. The fact that they broke their rule, because remember they had such a strict rule about bands that signed to majors, and obviously you guys paid all your dues in every way, and I've always seen it that way, and you're a great band, and you had to make the move you had at that period of time to a major label. So when you had Lawrence come out and spend the time with you during the induction and then came back and played at Gilman Street, what was that experience like for you where you started out?
Man, that was a really fun show. It was a cool homecoming. Yeah.
I love the fact that it was like, I love the fact that they broke that whole, if you were an indie, you play. They got to respect the band, man. I mean, the band, you know.
Yeah, I mean, playing Gilman's always, it's a very familiar, homecoming every time you're able to play there. And, each one of us has been able to, get our foot in there and play like here or there in a side project or something like that. But to be really on there as Green Day and to play so many of those songs for the first time ever at Gilman Street. It's easy to go in there and play the old songs you used to play there, but to play Jesus of Suburbia at Gilman Street, that song came home because that's really where it came from, and that's amazing.
I think it's great. I just love that. I thought it's about time you guys, I want to say it's about time they gave the respect here.
Yeah.
To the boys, you know what I mean? Which is fantastic. So, so now that the album is done, what is the plan? I mean, you're going to be doing a world tour, right? I mean, what are some of the earliest shows you guys are doing? And do you kind of know what your routing is and where you're going to be?
I mean, we're going to do a run of theater shows first.
Yeah, October 8th.
You're playing like Starland Ballroom in Jersey, which blew
Webster
my mind.
Hall.
And Webster, right?
That place is great.
Last time we played Webster Hall, Jason Fries, who plays saxophone and keyboards with us.
Yeah.
Right before we went on stage.
Josh Fries' brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Jason Fries, right before we went on stage, was on the phone, crying his eyes out, finding out that his wife Amy had just had their son.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
His son, Tennessee.
Jason and Josh are really cool guys, man. They're both great. I love them. That is so cool. Webster Hall, because it has the history. It used to be the Ritz, you know what I mean? And God, I saw Ramones there, and
the floor
started. I mean,
you can feel the floor buckle when it gets going in there.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing.
it's a little scary.
I thought they built it on springs, but it turns out
it's just made of good bendy wood.
And it's still going. I love it because it's a great independent venue, and all my friends that run that place. So I'm glad you're doing that. You're playing Jersey Starland Ballroom, which is pretty amazing too. I mean, that's always been kind of a cool.
I don't think we've played there before, have we? I don't think so.
No,
which is I love playing venues we have not played before. Just new experiences, keeping it fresh and having fun.
Because a lot of the venues you guys played on those early tours are no longer there, right? Like
Roseland, is that gone now?
Roseland's gone now,
right?
And boy, that broke my heart. I love that.
My ex-wife's grandmother she's so funny. She's an old New Yorker. She was like 97, and she's like, I used to go to Dime a Dance at the Rosewood Ballroom.
Yeah, they have Mr. Bojangles and like Grace Kelly. What's his name? I mean, just all those famous dancing guys.
Yeah,
Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire's Shoes. Remember they were in the glass?
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
And of course, under it was that crazy-ass labyrinth, so you could get lost downstairs under it.
It's like that scene in Spinal Tap.
Yeah, exactly. But so, guys, I'm really excited about it. Can you talk about any of the other songs on the new album? We talked about Still Breathing. Is there any other favorites you guys would like to talk about from the record? Because I'd love to hear.
I mean, I think Say Goodbye is just it's a beast of a song. Mm-hmm. Again, without going into it too much, because I think Billy being the one that penned the song could tell more about it, but it definitely paints a lot of what's going on in America with the social landscape, and these are all different categories of things that he sees, and it's sonically, I don't know if we've ever recorded anything that big sounding and that sort of, that's, for lack of a better term, it's a stadium sounding beast.
Yeah,
it really is. You'll hear, when you hear it, you'll go, "Oh, that's what he meant."
Oh yeah, I can't wait to hear it.
Outlaws. That's kind of like a looking back, kind of in a good way.
Looking back at your looking back at your youth, and really, kind of wrapping it up in a way that that is gracious, but it's also, look, it's bittersweet. Every day you look back, if you look back at all, which is probably the first time we've ever really looked back that far. it's just, I don't know. When you've been through some stuff, you tend to appreciate it, and there's a sense of gratitude and urgency on this record.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I can't wait to hear the whole record, man. October 7th is the date?
Yes.
October 7th. I think we'll be in New York that day, which is a great place to celebrate anything.
Yeah.
And then the celebration, the party continues every day on tour. We're looking to roll this out and just take our time and play for a long time.
I love that. Yeah. I love that you guys gave Pat Magnarella, your manager, much love at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I love Pat. He's a great guy. I've known for such a long time working with you, and I love the fact. I mean, it was just a really warm, cool thing to do. You know what I mean? I mean, you find that there's a lot of people that have been with you, your friends, for such a long time that are part of the Green Day family.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that Pat Magnarella is a world-class roller skate disco dancer.
Is he really?
Oh, yeah. He's amazing.
Not a bad surfer either.
Yeah, he's a good surfer, too.
You guys ever surfed?
I'm a lazy longboarder occasionally.
Cool. Can I ask you guys, here in the Bay, I mean, this has been your home, and it's where you come back to. No matter where you go, you still love it here. Is this, when you think about San Francisco and the Bay Area and Berkeley and Oakland and all the areas around here, I mean, is this a place you would ever want to, leave?
I think if I wasn't from here, I would want to come here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's definitely times I want to get away from here because I have grown up here my whole life. But, as long as you yearn to get back to a place, I think then that's probably home.
Yeah. I mean, I moved here and I love it.
It definitely with touring and all that, you get a chance to miss it. So it's always a kind of a connection when you return, and it's like, wow, look at this place. It's unbelievable here.
It is.
Port type cities, cities that are on the water, like port cities and stuff. You get whether it's Vancouver or Osaka or Sydney or places like that. They just had culture, and a lot of different cultures and spices. So the food's usually pretty great there, and different cultures coming in and out by ship for so long that I really like that iconoclast and that mix up of all sorts of different stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I'm happy to be in your town. I never knew I would be, but I am so glad to be here and have moved here to where you guys are.
Yeah, we're glad to have you.
Yeah,
Anybody with a wealth of knowledge about music like you should be welcome in a place like the Bay Area.
Yeah, thank you. You guys have always, and Tre too, you've always given me lots of love and just you guys have been my friends.
It's a bromance, man.
It is a bromance.
Yeah.
We're bros, and I love you guys. I really do. And, I know Billy Joe's sick. He's got 104 fever, and he's just kind of like getting on bed rest. But you got to send my love to him and Adrian and the family and Joey, too, because I haven't seen Joey in a long time, man, And I just tell your wife I'm so happy that she's doing well.
Absolutely. We could, we're all, we're just living life. We're all excited. We can't wait to get on this tour and just go out there and make a hot mess.
Yeah.
Celebrate with our fans. And people, if you haven't seen Green Day play live before, you are never late to this party.
Yeah.
Come on down. It's a good time.
You guys are one of the greatest live bands in the world, in my opinion. I have never, ever been disappointed ever at a show since I first saw you at City Gardens back in the day. That was the first time I saw you live, and I've been going to every tour ever since. And
I think that's the thing. I'll see bands play, and I don't ever want to be up there waiting to get off stage or shoegazing or anything like that. If we're not excited about something and we're not feeling it, we are going to change the whole set right then. Whatever happens, we're going to make some shit happen. We'll make something explode.
Yeah, which is great.
Because the world has enough complacency in it. There's no room for that shit on our stage.
It certainly does. and it's all, and the thing about playing live and really delivering is the thing that you guys have always done. So I can't wait to hear the rest of Revolution
Matt,
Radio.
You have no idea. We want to
I want to just
have these conversations about the songs like with you after you've had a chance to really hear it and listen to it a few times, because we're really proud of this thing.
This is
Revolution Radio's
No shitting you. I think it's some of the best music we've ever made in our lives.
Yeah.
And we're really, really proud of this record. Excited. That's why we're excited to go on tour.
Yeah.
When you got a great record, the world's your oyster. You want to go out and share it.
That's what's great. I mean, from the single, I'm just like, because you guys, it was the most exciting thing that I've heard lately, and I love the song. So, guys, thanks so much for doing this today, man. It was just so great to catch up with you.
It's good
Thanks
to
for
see you,
having
Matt.
us.
Next time, wear pants.
I will promise to. Yeah. This underwear is not really making it. These Hanes.
Yeah, it looks
Sorry
like you
about
haven't
that.
changed those.
That thing's
in a
huge
while.
and distracting.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry about that, guys. It's yes. That's
He just
why-
wants to show how large he is down there.
Yes. Guys, great to have you. It was awesome.
Oh, thanks, man.
It's Tre Cool and Mike Dirnt of Green Day, and the new album's out October 7th, and it's called Revolution Radio. I want to say a huge thanks to my old friends Mike and Tre from Green Day. The new album Revolution Radio comes out tomorrow, October 7th. Now, they're on the road now doing a bunch of club shows, and I can't wait to see them at their hometown gig here in the Bay Area. I want to say a big thank you to Rob Goldklang at Warner Brothers for connecting us with the band. And thanks to Charlene and Baby Huey from Cumulus San Francisco for heading out to the studio with me and taking photos of my conversation with the guys. And of course, I have to say thanks to the most important people in our world, you, the listeners. And I'm having so much fun sharing these great conversations with you every single week. We've got new episodes every Monday and Thursday, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't done it yet. Now, next week, I'll be joined Monday by Lars from Metallica and Thursday by my old friend and, speaking of Green Day, Billy Joe Armstrong's friend, Jesse Mallon, and the guys in Degeneration. Till then, I'm Matt Pinfield. Thanks for checking out the 2 hours of Matt Pinfield Podcast. Pinfield Podcast. Pinfield Podcast. Pinfield Podcast. Pinfield Podcast. Pinfield Podcast. Pinfield Podcast.